We are at the Nebraska History Museum. The great Midwestern historical societies have collected well, present things well, and have such an abundance of treasures and storylines. Let's take a really quick tour through 150 years of Nebraska history, starting with the first Nebraskans. The archaeology and the analysis of Native American Indians, the Plains Indians artifacts here and throughout collections like this are really quite remarkable. And I love the pipe stems in particular, often have great artistic merit, but the clay pots and various materials. This was an interesting artifact. I guess it belongs to a Swiss count or something. Earliest map showing military conflict between the natives, and actually these were the Spanish, in 1720, and it was known as the Valesur expedition. And again, the artifacts and collections here tend to be remarkable. And then this is again a review of all of the various tribal nations. The tribes themselves had often warfare with one another, but and sometimes they combined to attack their mutual enemy, which were the whites that were settling beginning in the 1830s, 40s, and 50s. Nebraska became a state in 1854. But again, the collections here are just amazing to me, the kinds of things that they've been able to round up. I mean, there's almost nothing comparable to this anywhere in the Northeast that I've seen in terms of the depth and scale of presentation. And this is actually a dress that belonged to Red Cloud's wife. Some of these native chieftains have become legendary figures in American history generally, but you get the idea here as we travel through and look at the changes in dress in Native American garb as they were both assimilated and stereotyped by the culture of the nation. And just the display techniques. I love exhibits like this that are very object-oriented. This shows and it's a kind of an earth lodge. It's kind of a period room approach. And then there are over here, this is a diorama that shows the Morning Star ceremony, which is one of the few documented instances of Plains Indians involved in human sacrifice, a custom that's ceased after about 1820. It's interesting, beginning to capture the Native American music and dance at the age of the phonograph. Sad and sometimes tragic story of the way the native peoples and first peoples of this country were conquered and their spirits in many ways crushed by the Winnebago living room from about 1915. So there was some degree of assimilation, but Nebraska joins the Union in 1854, and these exhibits talk about the Louisiana Purchase and Zebulon Pike and the fur trade and some of the early artifacts associated with that. And these are some Shako-type hats that were worn by the elite regiments at Fort Atkinson, north of Omaha. And a dress that may have been worn at the first inaugural ball of actually the first territorial governor of Nebraska. And of course, Nebraska barely entered the Union, the country, when the Civil War began, and they participated. There were regiments of Nebraska in that territory that were raised to fight on the Union cause against the Confederates and Confederacy, and these are some of the materials that are suggestive of that. And another period room from the 1870s, and the formation of the railroads and that were so important, some of the early local industries, and this pretty remarkable painting that shows Bellevue, Nebraska, as it might have looked about 1854. First state capitol that was built. And Willa Cather, of course, the famous author of the new state and of the plains, and chair that was used in the original State House, and another inaugural gown, one of the first ladies, and surveying, laying out the land, making provisions for the railroad. I love this. This is a buffalo skin coat that was worn by the 10th and 9th Regiment of Cavalry. It's the story of Major Frank North, who was with the Pawnee Scouts who helped protect the railroad men during the development of the Transcontinental Railway, which of course the Union Pacific created. And immigration was important, and these were Danish immigrants. Actually, this is a great piece of furniture that was made by Lars Sundin, made in the 1870s. He was from Sweden, and he lived in Ashland, Nebraska. And but different immigrant groups, Norwegians, mostly Scandinavians, poured into Nebraska during the 1880s. This is a great kind of artifact that again tells the story of that immigration era, and even some of the early newspapers. This is a Czechoslovakian newspaper, again from the 1870s. So you can see the evolution of cultures, and one of the most famous of the plains are the Sod Houses, and you can see how people actually lived in these houses that were half underground. And this is a period room, or an interior that shows what living in a sod house might have looked like. And I guess we're not going to see it because it's too dark, but you get the idea. A little piece of folk art here that was a cow head carved by Jesse Utter of Bridgeport, Nebraska. This is about Nebraska's participation in the World's Columbian Exhibition in Chicago in 1893. And then these Nebraska State Fairs. I love this Cornhusker picture frame here. And you can see that the fairs were a big deal, and became a focal point for civic expression and recreation, and of a new and young evolving state. Populism. William Jennings Bryan became famous, and his run for the presidency on the populist ticket is a tradition, again, that continues in this age of occupying Wall Street, where we talk about injustices and economic inequality, and it is again part of the continuing political discourse of our country. The University of Nebraska, one of the Big Ten, great sporting football power. These are the little freshman beanies that were worn in the 19th century. The school was founded in about 1871. This is its first building, and it is in Lincoln, Nebraska, and it is an enormous campus today. This is a little hand grip, a corn husking hand grip that was used as part of the corn production of that era. Things of the past. I love this little before the era of cinema and film. You could get a little sense of that from some of the toys that were made. The Buffalo Bill's Wild West Show, and this is a general store, as it might have looked about 1915. And boy, there's almost more than you can absorb, and certainly more than you can absorb quickly. But it's, you know, it's all part of fascination. And what I love is just the way artifacts connect us to stories. And there are some, again, really great ones here. And well, to be continued, but this is just an introduction to the Nebraska State Museum, History Museum in Lincoln, Nebraska. What a special treat to be here.